I really think that this process started prior to me being elected to county commissioner with Dr. Couch and the former board of county commissioners, as well as school board members. And I believe that this current school board administration has been very transparent. I personally attended at least 5 of the workshops, I'm going to call it, around the county where they were surveying people, trying to hear comments and so forth. And I applaud them for doing that because they wanted to hear exactly what the people of this county wanted. And after that process was done, then the school board decided whether the Wharton complex out there where the Wharton Elementary School is, which is now a bus depot, basically, for school buses, whether it would be good to put the new middle school there or on the existing property here in town. And they were the ones that made that decision, not the county commissioners. I have said all along that I am very supportive of a new school, and I still am supportive of a new school. And I've laid out facts, not anything fiction, but total facts on exactly how this county could move forward with building a new school. Now, I've been challenged on a lot of those facts, and that's fine. My numbers that I present as a county commissioner, sitting in that chair, are numbers that have been verified by the chief finance officer of this county, which is Pat Merritt, who has worked for the county for 28 years. She does a wonderful job, and she's always very conservative with her numbers, and we're very fortunate to have her. So that's kind of how it all started, I believe, and it was probably long overdue. You know, we have 5 schools here in this county. We have 1 high school. We have 3 elementary schools, and we have what I call failing middle school currently. The youngest school that we have is our high school. It's 54 years old. Construction started in 1971, and students, I believe, went in sometime in 1973. The remaining schools were all built in 1949, and they were built during World War II, and they were to serve as bomb shelters should we ever need that. So, you know, what was built back in 1949 isn't what is the learning environment that is needed in 2025 and beyond. The other problem is that the infrastructure in that school is failing. We're fortunate with our elementary schools. There's been a lot of renovations over the years by the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Ed to bring those up to par. But the middle school, you know, just last year they had to close for a few days because of a septic issue. They had to dig up a hole in the floor. It's just a failing infrastructure there. Now, if you wanted to try to fix that, I'm not an expert with this, but I would suspect you would be probably spending at least $20 million to try to fix that building. It needs a new roof. It needs so much infrastructure, HVAC. You know, it needs a complete overhaul. And so sometimes, in my opinion, you have to evaluate whether it's better just to maybe demo. You know, I've heard some people say that this is just a disguise to bring in data centers. That's ridiculous. It will be demoed. It will be utilized to actually house our children, educate our children during the construction phase of a new school. Financially, I feel that we are duty bound as county commissioners, and I think my colleagues all agree that when you look at the cost share figured by the wealth formula of our counties, we get a 50-50. You know, we get 50% from the state, and we pay the other 50%. There's construction cost and there's soft cost. The county's response is responsible for construction costs and the soft costs. The state is just strictly construction, and it has to be associated with educational needs or functions. For instance, if you had a gym, the state's not going to be paying for the bleachers and things like that. The wealth formula for this county indicates, and let me explain the wealth formula. The wealth formula, it's like a 32 or so, there's like 32 spreadsheets. There's probably 300 and some columns in that wealth formula on those spreadsheets. Out of all those columns, with the exception of 3 columns, Kent County ranks near the bottom or last in all of those columns. What really hurts us is that there's one column that talks about per pupil cost, and it's figured with the overall wealth of your county. I have said before that, and I said it again yesterday with the comptroller's office, that, you know, Kent County, we're not the wealthiest county. Montgomery is at 173 billion. Ours is 2,600,000,000, or 16 million rather. And there's a huge difference. Well, Montgomery County gets 50% cost share as well. And, you know, we have 12,500 taxpayers here. We have 19,500 citizens, roughly. I'm just talking round numbers. But we have about 12,500 that are actual taxpayers. They're the ones that are going to have to pay for the school. And we have about 8,000, I believe it is, taxpayers when it comes to income tax revenue. So, you know, the numbers are way different than a lot of the metropolitan counties versus the rural area. It's also important to keep in mind that this county landmass is about 87% farmland. And we all know, and I appreciate everything the farmers do, and I believe that they need to have reduced taxation because we depend on our farmers. But the taxes that you collect from farmland, agriculture, are so much less than a residence or a business. And I'm not suggesting that we do anything about that.
That's a state issue, isn't it?
It is a state issue. It's all set by the state. The income tax rate right now, Kent County has, but it's all set by law, and we are at the top. When it comes to real estate taxes, property taxes, on the Delmarva, we are second highest. Dorchester, I believe, is now in the #1 spot. And that's not a great place to be, but Dorchester just recently had to raise theirs because of I don't really know what their situation was, but they were in financial trouble. Kent County is not in financial trouble. But we are in second place with the highest tax rate. We are in 7th place statewide at the top, 7 from the top. And financially, right now the county's in great shape. We have never, this county, I've been told this by county departments that are actually overseeing this, finance, that the county has never had the capital fund balance that we currently have, which is a good thing because we can do some projects that are long overdue to be done, one being the school. Financially, in order to, the county has never been to the bond market. We're probably going to have to do that at some point for a lot of these capital projects. We in FY30, we will have $947,000 coming out of our debt service. Now, some of that debt service was the community center when the community center was built. And there's a few other projects that former boards of commissioners had to borrow money for. So there, by FY30, 2030, that $947,000 will be coming off out of our debt service. It's been estimated that if we build a school, that the annual payment is going to be $2.2 million. Keep in mind that I said that we have an enormous capital fund balance right now. We're in good shape there. So suppose we use some of that capital fund balance as putting it down, then we don't have to borrow 30 some million dollars. We borrow a little less, and I'm thinking that if the payment's down around $1.6 million annually, that's affordable. It's all about prioritizing. If it's a priority for the community, then we should, do this. And definitely, I am opposed to raising real estate taxes. I will not vote to raise real estate taxes because we don't have to. I've always been a believer that we need to live within our means and make things happen to just live in our means. And that's why I was sheriff in this county for 28 years. I was a cop for 43. I think I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the detention center. I've thought about it. Look, there's a lot of great employees out there at the detention center. I don't want to financially hurt them, and my plan that I've brought up doesn't hurt them. Everything's voluntary. If they decide to retire or move on, then there's a significant cost savings. If they don't, we are committed, the three commissioners are committed to maintaining their employment. The building will be maintained. I have never said that it's going to be closed. It will be maintained because it's going to be the base of a lower scale correctional facility. In other words, we're going to still do intake of incarcerated individuals. When the police arrest someone, they have to bring them in, and they'll bring them in with a commitment, probably to the sheriff of Kent County, because now our sheriff, Sheriff Hickman, great sheriff, is now overseeing that part of that building. The detention center. We actually did a resolution, which was required by law to put the sheriff in charge to oversee the operation of the detention center. So a commitment will be issued to the Kent County Sheriff, and the Kent County Sheriff will have MOUs in place with our neighboring jurisdictions to house our incarcerated individuals for a per diem cost. To give you an idea, the annual budget for that detention center is $4.3 million. Initially, years ago, when I was sheriff and Sheriff Blizzard, that facility used to house somewhere between 70 and 80 inmates. Today, it's somewhere between 28 and 35. So we're paying $4.3 million to pay for 28 or 35 inmates, and that's the weekly population. But it's pretty consistent. it's much cheaper to contract with another county. This is also being done up in Pennsylvania. And our Sheriff Hickman, actually took what I would call a field trip there, and was able to see exactly how things are running there. They've been doing it for about a year now, and they seem to be very pleased. You know, the biggest cost savings is going to be with the medical, which is $700 and some thousand. We won't have to pay for the medical any longer. We do that through a contract. And the food cost. Now, when you take those two things out, you still maintain your 21 employees. And maintaining the employees is very, very near and dear to our heart. And when I say the three commissioners. You will save right off the bat, once all the incarcerated individuals are gone, $392,000. And that's taking into consideration what the costs are going to be to house the 28 or 35, whatever it will be. And there's a way to draw those contracts up, if the other jurisdiction is agreeable, to say, okay, I'm just going to pick a number. Let's say we're going to pay you 12 months out of the year for 35 inmates. And the per diem cost is going to be this. And you build that into a contract, hopefully not just a yearly contract, but one that you could have some 2 or 3 years with. And then you have that locked down for at least 2 or 3 years. The other thing is some of the misleading information that's out there is that I have miscalculated the numbers when it comes to the medical. I haven't miscalculated the numbers. If we have a female inmate that comes in and she's expecting to deliver a baby, the county's responsible for that cost. Even now, we would have to pay for that. And if someone came in with a life-threatening disease or major health issues that were going to be very, very costly to the county, we would have to pay for that. But there's a process, and I know this because of being sheriff. There's a process where the county can contact our state's attorney. They can petition the judges and see if there's another way to maybe put this person on a home detention, and then it doesn't become the county's burden. And this has been done. This has been done a lot of times if inmates are hospitalized. You petition the court through the state's attorney's office to have them released. Now, obviously, it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. There may be an inmate that it wouldn't be appropriate for to do something like that. But it has been done. I've seen it done. It works. It saves the taxpayers of this county money. When an inmate goes to another county and is housed in their facility, the per diem cost that the county pays for the everyday expenses, like if someone's got a headache, they get Tylenol or aspirin or whatever the case may be. I mean, those over-the-counter drugs that might be needed are actually something that is included in the per diem. It's when they have to have outside care. Yes, getting the tooth pulled or whatever, then that's going to be a county response. But it is today. It always has been. So there's no change in that. And that's what's so misleading. The cost savings is getting rid of the medical contract for $700 and some thousand and the food contract, because if we scale down to just be an intake facility and like a holding facility, booking facility, whatever you want to call it, with a transportation unit to transport inmates out once they come in. Obviously, if an inmate comes there and they're injured, our Kent County COs, correctional officers, are not going to accept them. They're going to tell them to take them to the hospital. And most police officers are anyhow. So, what will happen is the 21 COs, correctional officers that we currently have, they will just be doing other duties. It may not be the duties that, well, it definitely won't be the duties that they're doing now. They're going to be handling pretrial release, supervision of that, which they do now. They're going to be overseeing the supervision of home detention, which they do now. There will be transportation units, which they do now, and they will be doing intake should the law enforcement officers bring someone in. On average, I just saw today, last week, there were only 2 inmates brought into that facility all week long. The last report I got, there were 5 brought in. That's less than 1 a day. This is a cost savings idea, and I have learned over the years that when you're small, that sometimes you need to contract out your jobs or whatever, because it doesn't make sense. Like for the roads division, it doesn't make sense to go out and buy a $300,000 piece of equipment when you may use it once or twice for whatever your need is, when you could hire a contractor and get the work done. So my thought process is contractual services while still taking care of the employees. And as the employees leave through retirement voluntarily, or if they decide that this isn't going to be for them anymore, they want to find another career, when they leave, every time one leaves, there's $120,000 savings in salary and benefits for the county. Currently, there are a lot, well, not a lot, but I would say there's 5 right now that have their years of service in, should they choose to retire. And if they don't, that's fine. But when they do, $120,000 apiece, that's another $600 and some thousand. Guess what? We're up to $1 million savings now.